Hello and welcome to Citizens Forum. This is being filmed on Tuesday, September the 22nd in the Memorial Arena in Victoria, BC. I'd like to start by thanking our volunteer crew and the Shaw staff that makes the program happen every week. The first part of Citizens Forum is always the Walter and Jack show, so we'll start off. I turned on my little portable radio as I was walking here tonight, or this afternoon, and CFAX News, it's what I heard leading the news was they'd found, I think I just caught a glimpse of the story, but I think it was 3 people found dead somewhere in Ontario. I think it was in Ontario. And I thought, why is that the news that, you know, a fairly major radio station in a fairly major city, the provincial capital of British Columbia, why is that what they feel they choose to tell us? And I've been thinking for a long time that what they do is they fill the news with crime and violence, and they throw in sports and the weather, but a lot of crime and violence. And then there's no more time for the news because they filled the news with that. So I got an email today. Today is International Car-Free Day. And just this day, this is what was in the email. This day is meant to raise awareness of the fact that motor vehicles are the single biggest cause of the world's carbon dioxide emissions. About 330 cities and towns around the world, and this is happening, I think, today, Tuesday, September 22nd, about 330 cities and towns around the world will close their roads off, or at least parts of the roads, to motors and open them up to pedestrians and bikers to mark the worldwide car-free day. So, and last week we had a guest on, and she said, she was on Tuesday the 15th of September, she said it was International Democracy Day, the United Nations Day for Democracy, something like that. Why wasn't that the news? Why is it crime and violence? And the reason is they don't want us to know about these things, but they do want us to know about crime and violence. And that's one way they control us. Walter.
Well, you know, Volkswagen, was just on the news today, Volkswagen, worldwide, they fake their emission tests for their diesel cars. And they program the computer in the car that whenever anything was clapped onto the tailpipe, it would go in an entirely different mode, and it would idle down and change a bunch of settings, and all of a sudden the emissions coming out would hardly be anything. So on International Not Car Day, we have a major manufacturer caught building in the program in their computer a way to trick the emission standards. So I mean, just let you know just how far it's got the other way.
Yeah, I know, and I'm sure everyone is shocked that this happens. I mean, many, most, maybe all corporations do that. It's just the way they operate. All they want to do is win. That's all that's all they are.
Well, lying is wrong, Jack, when you get caught.
Yeah, when you get caught.
You know, as long as you don't get caught, it seems to be okay.
Somebody should, I assume, go to jail for that, but they won't. I mean, General Motors killed or murdered, more than 100 people in the United States. Who knows how many and how many thousands injured with their key system that they knew was a problem. They kept it quiet. People died. You know, they're worse than ISIS, but
yeah,
but they're General Motors.
Well, they do have an agenda, and they have to make money, and they have to, whatever it takes. But anyway, if you want to know what topic I might have brought today, I've written an article which is up on my website, which is called powertothepeople.ca.
So powertothepeople.ca.
Everybody go there, read this article, which I lay out how the NDP and the Liberals collaborated in the 2013 election, and the NDP collaborated with the Liberals to give them the election. And Brian Topp and their campaign manager Brian Topp and other consultants working for the Liberals, all being directed by Hill and Knowlton. They basically figured out a way to...
It is kind of amazing that, as you say,
Yeah.
both the top strategists in the provincial election, the Liberal and the NDP party, the top strategists worked together in the same PR firm. I mean, they were the PR firm.
You really read it. I think it's very interesting. The truth is always more fantastic in fiction many times. And this is quite a story about how this all came about. And now, after the election, we looked at how the NDP covered it up. So they're complicit in the crime too. I'm convinced they did this. The evidence is pretty irrefutable. It's in the article. I hope people will read it and consider that the same people are now in Ottawa running the NDP campaign in Ottawa. So Brad Leving and company are all now in Ottawa. Brad Leving is vice president of Hill and Knowlton. That's he's their senior campaign advisor in their campaign.
For the NDP? For
the NDP. And I think they're pulling off the same strategy in Ottawa as they did here in British Columbia, where the NDP collaborated with the Liberals and gave them the election. In Ottawa, we have the NDP collaborating with the Conservatives to throw the election to the Conservatives. And if you look at the evidence, it's quite powerful.
Okay, so you're predicting a Conservative government?
Well, one thing you can't do, and I mean, and believe me, I never predict the election result after
I'm predicting a Liberal government.
Well, the polls, if you
first.
trust the polls, they might support you in that.
Well, it doesn't matter. I just think the whole thing, to me, the whole election is controlled by corporate Canada because they own the media and they tell us the stories. And you can almost watch them keeping the three, but well, we'll see what they do. I predict a liberal government of some kind, but we will see what the people who run this country want, because we'll see it play out over the next 3 weeks or whatever. And on the day after the election, we'll know what they wanted, because that's what we're going to get. More or less.
More or less. And I think what we are seeing is the Liberals are, especially in Ontario, now gaining a lot of ground. They're ahead in Ontario, which is the largest voting bloc in the country. Very, very important bloc. And the Liberals are gaining more and more support.
Now, the only problem is they're sounding good, right? They're saying a lot of good stuff. That's why people are swinging to them.
Yeah.
But it's all a pack of lies. I mean, you can't believe a word of it, right? I mean, back in 1991, when the last Liberal government was formed, and it went from 1991 to about 2006, a Liberal government, Jean Chrétien was elected as Prime Minister.
Yeah.
He said he was going to get rid of the GST. It was a complete and outright lie. He said he was going to renegotiate NAFTA. Complete and total lie. And it was jobs, jobs, jobs. And that was also complete and total lie, because what they did was they cut, right?
Well, let's get into what's happening right now, because I very quickly just threw together some of the things that the Liberals, the NDP federally and the Conservatives are collaborating on.
Okay.
Firstly,
collaborating, you mean they have the same stupid position on?
They're collaborating.
Okay.
They
So
got public relations people telling them what to say.
Yes.
It's not just, we happen to agree. No, they're given memos, and the memos are telling them what to do. Of course, they're hammering Trudeau. Both of them are hammering Trudeau because he's really the guy that they're worried about. But the Conservatives and the NDP, and this is when they eliminated Elizabeth May from the debate, from the last debate, and wouldn't allow her to be involved.
The Globe and Mail is a disgraceful insult to a free press for doing that, owned by Canada's richest family, the Thompsons, a complete and the rest of the media too, for pretending it wasn't even an issue. Was there any anger in the media?
Well, they don't care about how many people get disgusted with them, apparently, because they're a social democratic party. Democratics read in their name, and not allowing somebody into a debate, a legitimate leader of a political party, to me just puts that. They look fake. Now the NDP has announced just in the last couple of days that they want to buy these big F-35 fighter jets, these stealth fighter jets.
What I think Mulcair said was, there's a good process in place, and let's see what it comes up with. That was
He
his
was
line.
against them. Now he's talking about a
Yeah,
process.
what are they talking about? I mean, how can anybody support this lunacy of the F-35?
And by the way,
people
they're crap.
But I mean, give us the facts. Give us the facts about the F-35. Give the people of Canada the facts. Publish them in the media, and everybody will see that the plane doesn't work. That's the problem with
Remember
it.
the submarines we bought from the British
I'm trying to
years
forget.
ago? This is what we're talking about. Nobody else wants this stuff, so they're going to dump them on us. Now, both the Harper and Mulcair are strangely, just terribly in love with the regime that's running the Israeli government.
Yes.
Now, they can't see this regime for being what it is, and we've talked about this many, many times, but they're ruthless and brutal and
Are you talking about Harper and Mulcair or the...
No, the Israeli government
Yeah.
and how they act. Yeah. Whatever associations they have with Judaism and stuff has no interest of mine whatsoever. This is a brutal government. Harper and Mulcair's throwing people out of his party that even muse about legitimacy of the Israeli government.
Yeah,
He's throwing them out.
I'm just saying the Palestinians, have a...
Now, the big one, Jack, is something we talked about on the show a lot, is that the ISIS connection to Harper. Now, how can you forget this? Harper has his close buddy, Bruno Sacamani. He makes him the ambassador, Canadian ambassador in Jordan, and they start running people into Syria through Turkey, and they were caught running the school children.
So the Canadian embassy in Jordan was caught running teenage girls from Turkey into Syria, paying an agent to run teenage girls. And there's a direct link to Harper in this, and yet, aside from this, here we are in Victoria, and it's like, and it's a fact. I mean, there's no question. Maybe the information is wrong, but the allegations,
this is according to the Ottawa Citizen
and the Turkish government,
press releases, videotape, testimony.
Yeah. So here we are talking about this on television.
Yeah.
And yet the rest of the media and the political parties...
This is what I'm talking about.
Hello!
This would blow any government out of the water. But they apparently they can't talk about it for some reason, even though the facts are well established and printed and published in mainstream media.
So to me, that says that the entire election is like it's a theater.
Yeah.
And we are the audience. But the problem is we believe this is really happening, but it's not. The whole thing is staged. And our ruling class, which is corporate Canada, will choose for us who the Prime Minister is going to be. I think it's going to be Trudeau, but I could be wrong. We'll see who they choose because on October 20th, we'll all know.
But there are battles going on in constituencies.
Everybody wants to win.
And I think there's a good chance that the Greens could make some gains here in Victoria, and I really hope they do. Now, last thing I want to bring up is that I've been doing a lot of research, especially for this article, and there's another article to come out about the Alberta election with the Rachel Notley being tossed out.
Rachel Notley became the premier.
She was a premier, then
Alison Redford.
Oh, sorry, Alison Redford.
Yeah, like that is a story.
And they tossed her out.
The media.
It was all trumped up. Right. And then they brought in Jim Prentice, who never really wanted to be the premier, and then...
and they brought in the NDP.
Then they brought in the NDP. And I think it was a deal. Brian Topp is the chief of staff for the Rachel Notley government in Alberta, and he was running the campaign here in BC when the NDP lost the election. So, I mean there's a lot of connections between the Conservatives and the NDP, Jack. This is just a sketch. I mean, I haven't done any hard work on this, and this list could get very long.
It's kind of like they're all professional politicians, and they work together to manage us for the corporations. And they all do quite well, I mean, you get to be an MP, you're pulling in well over $100,000 a year. Plus, everybody has to call you the honorable, and our democracy's disappeared in the process.
Well, you know what? It's like the U.S. Senate and stuff. I mean, it's just bought and paid for after a while.
But we can do better.
That's right.
what we need is just a better set of rules for how our governments run. And I can just give 2 or 3. Number one, we should really have a look at our electoral system, because our electoral system does not give us the governments that we vote for. So for example, in the last election in 2011, the Greens got 600,000 votes nationwide and elected Elizabeth May. The Conservatives got 6 million votes, only 10 times as many, and elected 166 MPs. And I mean, there's a dozen different examples just in that one election of these completely crazy numbers. So that's one thing. And secondly, we've got to reduce the power of the Prime Minister and the premiers and the party leaders in general. They have the power to throttle democracy, and they do. So that's what we end up with. So those are positive changes that we should be working on, pushing for more democracy and more independent media. If we can get those 2 things, then we may start to win.
Yeah, that's right. You know, Mulcair has promised to bring in the system of proportional representation if he becomes the Prime Minister.
You know, he also promised this daycare thing, which is going down the drain. And his promise about the minimum wage is not true either, because it only applies to federal employees, which is like they're all getting paid above the minimum wage anyways, and it's like 2 or 3% of the workforce.
But to me, it's almost proof that he'll never become Prime Minister, because the plan is for him not to win the election, according to my analysis.
That could very well be, yeah.
So he can promise the moon, and he doesn't have to live up to it. And
so what's your prediction then? If he's not going to, you think Harper's going to get in?
Well, here's a couple of scenarios. You know,
come on, just say it.
Let's dream it up, Jack. I think all depends what happens in the next couple of 3 weeks. But I think if Mulcair starts to pull ahead a little bit, start looking pretty good. Something will break. Some terrible thing about Mulcair will be broke in the news. He's got a dual citizenship with France. That could be a big problem, you know.
If they put it on the front page.
You know, like, who's he? You know, they could trump up any charge against him to bring him down a couple or 3 points. And maybe with Harper might be able to sneak up there and pull ahead. Or we have Trudeau that could win. So you just don't know what's going to happen here. I wouldn't dare predict.
Okay. And I'm picking the Liberals. But what I'm really picking is that the script is already written. They already know who's going to win, they being the people who run the country. And they'll manipulate us to do whatever it is they want. So last week there was a big story in town where Victoria held a small conference about homelessness, and they paid the homeless people who attended about $20 each. And I think the total cost was around $7,000. And I woke up the next day and turned on CFAX and just, homeless paid. Not only were the homeless paid $20 to attend, which CFAX did not think was right, but a reporter for CTV saw some of them leaving early. Yes. And so that was in like hour after hour. They got paid. And they left early. Nothing about what the conference was about, or this huge problem, which is caused in large part by radio stations like CFAX. So, and of course it made the Times columnist $20 consulting fee for homeless stirs debate. So, for the last year, every 3 months, the Royal Bank has been making about $2.5 billion in profit. Every 3 months, one bank, $2.5 billion in profit. Now, that is never in the Times columnist. They don't tell us that. And that's never on CFAX, and it's never on CBC in a big way, and it's never on CTV. They're never, but paying the homeless $20, that's big news for the corporate media that is used to control us. So I just want to take $1 billion, of the $2.5 billion that the Royal Bank made in 3 months. For $1 billion, we could build 3,000 units of housing, and that would cost about $400 million. We could give 20,000 people in Canada who are waiting for an operation and waiting for months or years for an operation, You could give 20,000 people operations at $10,000 each. Plus, you could give the 40,000 poorest families in Canada $5,000 each. Plus, for all the people in the cities that are, more and more crime because of the poverty and criminality that our corporate rulers create, you could get 2,000 more police as well. So 3,000 units of public housing, 20,000 operations, 40,000 families getting $5,000 each, and police as well for $1 billion. And this is what they choose to create, controversy in our community by paying the homeless $20.
Elizabeth May mentioned in one of her speeches that since the Conservatives' tax break occurred and really radically dropped the corporate tax rate in Canada, which happened around 2003 or 2005, the corporations have salted away $620 billion. They've taken that tax breaks and they haven't spent the money. They just kept it. That's $620 billion. So
if we
to give
took
you an
that,
idea.
Yeah, if we took that somehow, we could just about pay off the national debt.
Well, that is our money. They now have it. That used to be our money.
Walter, we got 30 seconds left.
Well, I'm going to urge people to read the article.
Okay, go.
Because I think, Jack, that we can make a difference in this world. We can, if people get educated on the issues and the facts, the people see the corruption within the NDP. Let's face it. People turning to the NDP for help now, it's just not going to happen.
Walter, we're out of time, but that's a good way to end it. Thank you very much for watching this segment of Citizens Forum.